We are here today. Well, you're here to interview two very, very interesting, intriguing. Can I say decadent?
Yeah,
Would they be offended if I said decadent? People, Claire and Mike from Manumission.
yeah.
Almost 25 years ago, we were out in Ibiza filming some Party Zone Ibiza summer specials. First time for me in Ibiza was 98. Had you been before?
88, that's how
No,
everything
98,
started for me.
98.
If
Yeah.
I hadn't been, I was in Ibiza in 88, and if I hadn't been there, nothing would have happened. I never would have ended up on MTV. It was the rave scene that I discovered in 88 in Ibiza that drew me to London afterwards, and the rest is history. And yeah, I
Okay,
became a
so
raver.
10 years later, we all went back for MTV. Now,
Yeah.
personally, I remember us being at this, what was it, at Manumission, the motel, the hotel, the brothel, whatever it was, how it was perceived. I don't
Yeah.
really remember even you interviewing Claire Mike. We did a lot of activity around that hotel. Do you remember actually interviewing Claire and Mike for Manumission?
Maybe not for Party Zone. I can't remember. I know that Lawrence Coe, who also worked on Party Zone with us, of course, for many
Mm,
years, Lawrence and I filmed part of the Manumission movie. So we went back again, and yeah, we're part of that. So
yeah.
one section of that movie was actually done by us. So I definitely interviewed them. But whether we did for Party Zone or not,
No.
I cannot remember. I don't remember much of that particular shoot,
What I
to be
think is
honest.
interesting, as you say, they had the movie. There was so much myth attached to Manumission, and I mean, Claire's recently written a memoir about her time, and in fact, she was probably having such a good time that she had to ask a lot of people to fill in the gaps. There's black spots when you've had such a
Oh yeah,
chaotic,
yeah,
incredible run, which they did with that club Manumission
yeah,
and everything it did, and the spectacle of it, quite incredible. I look, when you do this interview, obviously, I think you could almost have a podcast series on all the anecdotes itself. There were so many people. I mean, celebrities, non-celebrities, characters. Howard Marks, all
oh
these people who kind of Irvin Welsh, a lot of interesting cultural people cross through there. All the top DJs. You know, you could have a podcast series alone on just the myth and the anecdotes from
yeah,
Manumission. Um, just a couple of things
yeah.
I would say to Claire and Mike. I mean, any regrets they've had from it, and any, obviously, I think with her memoir, she's wanted to tell her and their side of the story. Anything that they kind of ever, read about, heard about, they thought that's not fair, that's not nice, I don't like that, that's really harsh, that's not true, not, that really affected them because so much was written.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to write about them, and it was great to write about the club and about the Manumission Motel. It was notorious, and rightly so. I mean, it was as much as hedonistic as the whole rave scene was.
A doll's
They
house on
really
acid.
pushed it to another. They sorry.
A doll's house on acid, as someone described it.
Yeah, yeah, very, very odd. How I don't even know how to explain it to someone who wasn't there, but basically it was the hedonism
Mm.
turned up to the max, like up to the point where you're literally walking around going, okay, this can go so drastically wrong like any minute now. Like I'd be walking around going, I mean, are people gonna die here? Like what? It was
It's
just
true, it's
nuts.
true,
I
it's true.
remember.
The freedom.
Yeah, I mean it
Claire
was
talks a lot about the freedom that they had back then as compared to now. And it's true, that freedom was almost, you're right, it's dangerous. I mean, I'm surprised there was not more. Maybe it's
yes.
things we don't know about or heard about. But yeah, you're right. That was a fuse waiting to just blow up.
Yeah, 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 and was kind of partly blowing up every night. It was, but yeah, it was great to have witnessed and to have been there, and I'm sure we're going to have some amazing stories. We're going to hear some good stuff from Mike and Claire for sure.
Before you kind of go to the what's happening now, which is amazing, they have relaunched with Alien. What would extraterrestrials think of Manumission and what's going on there almost 25 years later? I just love this thing here. This is Carl Cox. I saw this girl with a tattoo of flames coming out of her bottom. It's a great hotel to stay at for one night, but you won't get any peace and quiet. There you go. That was from the Face magazine back in 1998. One of the world's leading DJs on his experience of being in Manumission.
Yeah. I
What was
remember
your
being
best
there
memory?
when
What was your
Norman
go on.
Cook and Zoe Ball first met. So that was the night when they met at the Manumission Motel. Best memory. Oh, well, kind of getting lost with Lisa Ianson, I guess, at the Manumission Motel. That was quite memorable.
And then what happened to Lisa afterwards?
Watching a back to front striptease. So basically, someone would walk in naked and then actually get dressed. So it was back to front. I remember some lady who would come in with painted dogs. So she had all these poodles in like different bright colors, and the poodles would sing. They would be like yelping and singing. I mean, it's just everything was just very strange. Um, being given a sombrero by Bez from the Happy Mondays. I remember that. I mean, just yeah, it was an interesting place for sure. But and their stories are going to be even. I mean, my stories are just like this. Their stories are just going to be crazy. And of course, I would like to know how they feel now that they have their own children,
Yeah,
about the live sex shows that they did on
correct.
stage. Are
Yeah.
there any regrets with that, or are they happy and proud of what they've done? Like that whole the whole thing around that.
Even at a time where, as I say, we weren't really at that age where mobile phones, but there was a lot of cameras documenting it. They were unashamedly performing these
Yeah,
things on stage, doing it. You're absolutely right. Do they feel any,
yeah.
I'm being brutal and blunt here, do they feel any shame and regret that their kids will see this, their grandkids will see this? I mean, you got to be pretty,
Or maybe not. Maybe not at all. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to find out for sure.
get
Yeah.
on with it.
Mike, Claire, oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure. So where are you? You're where do you live?
Belize, no?
I'm in Belize. I'm out in the tropics. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, how's that?
It's peaceful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Unlike your life, I think your life has been slightly manic lately, right?
Lately, yes, but
Yes.
before lately we've been in the forest as well for like 7 years. So pretty it's been very tranquil, but now it's been absolutely manic.
Right.
We live in a national park, so there's no neighbours. A national park
Wow.
with rivers and wild boar and
Yeah.
But in Ibiza.
But yeah,
no, we left Ibiza.
We live in Barcelona.
Oh my goodness. For some reason, I still had you guys, because to me, you are Ibiza. I mean, Manumission, Mike and Claire, that's Ibiza.
Yeah.
Wow.
We came to the stage, we just had to kind of get off the island for a bit with the kids. They were all like teenage and,
Yeah, it was a good move.
It was a great move.
Yeah. So let's go back. It's so funny because I know our paths cross so many times and I have no timeline in my head at all. It's like everything is just mashed into one big like kind of jumbled mess. So let's just for Manumission, give me a little bit of a timeline with Manumission, like what started when, what ended when, just so I get a little bit of clarity in my head.
Yeah, start maybe from the beginning, just a summary of it.
So Manumission began in Ibiza in '94. It ended in 2008. So
wow.
The Manumission Motel was 1998. That was like the pinnacle of madness.
Right.
Manumission the movie was the year before, 1997.
That was the year before.
The year before. So you were there for the year before and for the screening on the
movie premiere, which was Claire's birthday.
Which is my birthday. In 1998. And then that was like the pinnacle of
madness.
Manumission madness.
Yeah.
And then after that, it kind of found a new rhythm that we could cope with physically.
Wow. Okay, so for anyone who listens or watches this who doesn't know Manumission, so describe in your own words what Manumission was.
you want to start?
Yeah, well, Manumission was a huge, fantastic party where you could do anything you wanted. The idea was everybody was free to do whatever they wanted as long as they didn't hurt anybody else. And it attracted all kinds of people from all over the world, all nationalities, sexualities, probably religions too, and everybody got on. It was, it was a pretty epic party. It was in the biggest, when it was in Ibiza, it was in the biggest club in the world, and we consistently filled that for 14 years. And yeah.
I think one of the big things that stood out with what we did were the concepts. Every year, Mike and I designed like an overarching concept. And, you know, be it Manumission the movie, Murder at the Manumission Motel, Phantasmagorical Manumission Mystery. It was all like, it was just our way of, it's kind of like our vision and our way of expressing. Manumission was a very, you know, it had a strong identity, but it was kind of our self-appointed role to keep reinventing it. And it was always a reflection of what was really important to us that was going wrong with the world at the time, whether it was the world was too prudish or there was too much violence or, you know, and then we kind of expressed that with our gang of misfits.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything you guys did was so theatrical and so eccentric. So take me all the way back. I mean, growing up, did you guys grow up in very theatrical families, very eccentric families, or not really?
I think my family quite.
You've got an eccentric
I
family.
think they're pretty eccentric. There's a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, a lot of drinking. You know, parties were one of the major, like, important, you know, factors in my family life. And then as soon as I was 13, I started sneaking into nightclubs. So from a very young age, I discovered that kind of sense of freedom and expression that, you know, nightclubs gave me. And then, yeah, as soon as I was not quite old enough, I went to Ibiza and met Mike. And that was my kind of, voyage.
And my family wasn't particularly theatrical or anything at all either. Well, yours was maybe more. But I was always very artistic. And my dad, it turns out, was the person that organised the parties in the officers' mess in the RAF.
Yeah.
With, you know, like, but I never saw any connection with that. But I'm sure I grew up. There were kind of rubber masks and strange things, like, which will sound really odd, but like they were more like kind of character masks of things from Doctor Who or I don't know what.
Right.
Growing up, you know, like, no.
Mike got an art scholarship to school, and he studied architecture at UCL at the Bartlett. So I think a lot of our design methods have come from Mike's like formal studies.
Yeah.
So yeah, we followed a lot of those strict.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we continue to. Yeah.
And so Manumission initially started in Manchester, right, Mike?
We did. Yeah.
And it was quite. It was kind of inspired by the gay scene too, right? That you had encountered in like New York and everything. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah. To a degree. I mean, I'm from a village in Lincolnshire, so I didn't want to. I wanted to leave the village and go to London, which was a very crazy idea for the other people from the village who had no desire to leave the village and go to London. And then once I'd been to London, at university, I wanted to live in New York and Paris. So I spent a few years bobbing around between London, New York, and Paris, and and going to parties. And the ones that were best for me were the ones in the gay scene, because back in those times, the straight club scene was really kind of very uninspired. It was very like, and a fight could always kick off at any time. Whereas in the gay scene, everybody was dancing. It was great. There were beautiful women. It was there was everything to be loved in the gay scene. So when I left New York and came back to live with my brother in Manchester, I told him how good the parties were in New York. He then said he'd said they were great in Manchester. Well, I went out to see them, and they weren't great at all. They were just a DJ and a bunch of people in a club. It was like, after what I'd seen, I said, Andy, we could do better than this. And that's how it started off. He said, well, why don't we?
Yeah. I quite like. So
And
I heard you talk about a story which I really loved. How you managed to make it a mixed straight and gay club, and it was something to do. Will you just repeat that, because I heard you talk about the flyer that you created, which to me was
how
just
did you hear that
genius.
story? How did you hear that story?
I just heard it. So tell me the story.
Okay, sure. So no, well, so the plan was to do a mixed night, and all the gay crowd. So they said none of the gay crowd would go to a mixed night. And I said, oh really? They won't. So I drew this flyer, this poster, and I put on it. I drew this ordinary looking bloke, and I wrote on it, John Wayne, security guard. Last week I went to Manumission and I discovered that men give better blowjobs. Now I've left the wife and kids and live with my boyfriend Tom. And then underneath it said, health, health warning: Manumission could seriously damage your reputation as an insecure heterosexual male. And then left it at that. Well, then I fly posted these all over Manchester, big posters. I made them in a photocopy place, and anyway, they were everywhere, all around the gay village. And when we opened, all the gay crowd came flocking in.
Wow, that's that's a genius move.
Yeah, it was a good one.
And so, and what about the straight guys then that came? They were all cool about it, because
It meant anybody straight who was coming had to be pretty
Right.
comfortable with who they were. So it was a really good, back in those days, if anybody did come that looked like they were at all, sorry about the background noises.
just animals, right?
It's the wild boar.
Yeah. If a dodgy looking straight guy came, I would tell them, this is a mixed night, and there's a lot of gay guys in there, and they might want to touch you a little bit. Is that okay? And these guys would go like this, and I'd say, because if you're not comfortable with that, I think maybe you'd be better at the hacienda or home. And they'd say thanks, mate, and they'd leave. So I never had to. It was always a very easy door. And then sometimes people would come. One time, particularly, a guy came in a big scar down his face, and he looked really terrified. And he said, no, I just want to come in and dance. And he says, I said, the gay bit. He said, no, me brother's gay, mate. My brother's gay. I just want to come in and dance. Anyway, this terrifying guy came in and danced all night.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was great,
So do you think that that's kind of what also helped with Manumission? Because Manumission, of course, was very fluid, very mixed. Do you think that's what kept the atmosphere good there as well?
Possibly. I mean, for us, the
Probably.
gay scene was like the heart of Manumission. Do you remember the Coco Loco bar over to the side when you came in, and then the Coco Loco bar was where all the drag queens would like hang out.
It's the gay heart of the club.
And it's where Manumission actually started and expanded to fill the whole venue.
Yeah.
So for us, it was such an important element, and I just adored the drag queens, and probably maybe because that was where our focus was. That kind of love just spilled over into the kind of.
They were very, very. I mean, Manumission in Manchester came out of a gay club, like it was a mixed night. Manumission in Ibiza started in the Coco Loco, which was the gay heart of the club, and they were really, really important from the very beginning. So it was always, they were the people we were trying to keep happy, like in a way. It was like, it was our party for us and them, and then all the other thousands could come and hopefully enjoy it too, which they.
And actually, we never had any trouble with it, and it was kind of like natural selection. People would just go wherever they felt comfortable, and you had these most amazing mixtures of characters, didn't you? Some of the like real, English San Anne kind of kids really gelled with some of the Spanish drag queens.
Yeah.
So you just had this amazing kind of chemistry going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it really fitted again with the whole theatrical side, because of course, I mean, who's more theatrical than a drag queen? It's like, it's all about the show. And of course, with you guys, it's funny, actually, I was talking to Caroline Prothero, the old manager of David Guetta. I was saying to Caroline, I was interviewing you guys, and she said, what did she say again? She said, it's quite amazing. She was actually talking about the shows that you guys were doing. And she was saying how for her, she said it made her feel very liberated. She said it was interesting. She said on the one hand, what you guys were doing was almost something that would fit in the gay scene a lot more, but you guys were doing it for heterosexuals. And she found that very empowering. And she said, because she was, and then she started to send me, I gotta read this stuff out to you. So to her, so this was all about female sexual empowerment. You know, you can look at it, of course, in a lot of different ways, but this is how she saw it. And she sent me all these things about UK laws and how restrictive certain UK laws were for women. And I was really shocked when she sent me those. Wow. So apparently it was only in 1980 that women could apply for credit cards and loans. From 1982 was when women could no longer be refused service in a pub. 1982. 1982. From 1991, it became illegal to, you couldn't rape your wife if she didn't want to have sex. So basically, you know, rape inside a marriage was legal because a man had conjugal rights up until 1991. Jesus. And from 1993, violence against women was actually that there was legislation against it because they said it was a violation against their human rights. So up until 1993, theoretically, you could beat your wife. And so she was saying within that framework, there was you guys do. Now you can look at it in however different ways you want to look at it, but for her, it was about empowerment. Was that what it was for you?
It was
about freedom.
It was about freedom. It was about anti-violence. It was about sex, you know, against violence. And then after I did the first performance, the reaction that I got from women was just astounding. It was like that. It was how Caroline felt it. It was very much like, wow, I feel so powerful, and thank you so much. You know, it was like some of the straight guys just stood back. They were like, didn't know what to say. The drag queens just embraced the gay scene. Suddenly embraced me, and you know, for going out there on a limb and doing that. So yeah, the reaction was amazing. And then like, you know, the kind of the public reaction was just like, you know, it was just insane. The fuss that was made about it.
I mean, the
tabloids, you know, some of the insane, and some of the people within our own organisation didn't like it. So it really did cause like a huge
polarization.
It was massive. But it was funny. That feeling I got was very much about empowerment.
But you have to remember too, Simone, it wasn't really that we were doing this for the straight scene.
No, not at all.
We were making a party and everybody was welcome. It just happened.
But we hung out in the gay scene. The girls that I was doing the show with, I mean, they're totally, you know, I wouldn't call them gay, straight. It just wasn't a thing. It was, you know, whoever was, you know, it just wasn't even you know, we didn't even really define it.
It still shouldn't be a thing.
No.
You know, really.
No, that's true.
But if you were on
your
stage,
life, your body.
If you were on stage with us, it wasn't a heterosexual thing. It wasn't. Definitely not. Right. You know.
No, but what she meant, I think what she meant was you didn't see that kind of stuff with straight people. You know what I mean? Like you could see something like that maybe in a gay club at the time.
Totally.
Ish, but definitely not. You know,
definitely not in that environment.
No.
And who would have thought? So there's you guys. There's this crazy hedonistic thing that you guys are part of, and here you are after all these years still together. I'm sure back then people would not have betted on that.
No.
I know. We had our launch of our new show a couple of weeks ago, and our friend Vaughan was there. I don't know if you remember Vaughan from Pasha. He's the black guy with the African with the big hats that used to be in the rock bar.
Oh, okay. I think so, yeah.
I'm sure you remember him.
Yeah.
And he was saying that everybody there, a lot of our old friends were there, and they were like, how the fuck did Mike and Claire manage to stay together with what they were doing? Nobody else has managed. Yeah. It's like, it's insane. But yeah.
So what's the secret?
I think partly we do everything together. We, you know, because we work together as well as have family and being a couple. I don't know. I think
I always say it's like, I mean, years ago I thought this. It's like, you know, like two people don't really gel perfectly together ever. There's always going to be sort of like things that are going to grate, for example. But I always say it's the sand in the oyster that makes the pearl. So if you can kind of wear on together, eventually something beautiful will happen. You know, like you get to know each other, you get to kind of, you know.
But it is not easy. It's not easy, especially because we work together and we get, you know, and then your ego gets involved, and you're like, we've had to learn a lot to control control my temper.
That's the sound in the oyster.
Yeah,
Right.
we've had to
So which bit was harder then as a couple, that crazy stage or the stage that came after, as far as your relationship goes? Because it's very different dynamics, obviously.
Mhm.
The stage that came after was made difficult by the stage that came before. Yeah. So I always say, like, the motel was kind of the best and the worst of Manumission.
Yeah.
It was, and the kind of the good and bad.
And what came after for Manumission was amazing.
Yeah,
where we got to creatively, and
yeah,
incredible stage shows with like 60 performers and enormous stage sets. And I mean, nobody in the world was doing, and still aren't doing anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit of, also having the family, the children, the 3 children, and also the
also
love.
probably living on our own in a mountain house off grid. It's like
No, and the love for our work too. We have a big
love our
passion for writing together, creating together, the shows, film scripts, everything we do together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing. So let me play a clip. I'm going to do a little screen share. Which one shall I do? This is about the motel, I think. So let me do a screen share.
John Carter. I had an amazing room with a waterbed and spa in the corner. People can do whatever they like and no one thinks twice about it or goes on about it afterwards. There were all kinds of strip shows going on, but I didn't see any of them because I had my missus with me. It's one of the maddest parties I've been to in my life. There's nothing sordid or sick about it. It's as outrageous as you want it to be. The only thing I saw that was unpleasant and over the top was Derek DeLarge. And here's Derek DeLarge. The motel's crazy. It's a beautiful old building painted bright pink. People like Elle Macpherson, the Rolling Stones, Maradona and Shaun Ryder have all been along. I don't want to lay down the dirt on anybody, but let's just say people have been swinging from the rafters. It's like Pompeii, with everybody clowning around and ending up in waterbeds with other people. Pete Tong. It's a bit like Norman Bates's motel on acid. Allegedly, they have a trolley that's all wrapped up in fur with turntables on it. The idea is you can wheel the turntables into your room and have a party whenever you want.
So the motel. So, okay. Tell me the story of the motel.
We've written a book,
I know you've written
Yes,
a book. I'm going to talk about that too. But tell me about the motel. So you guys were obsessed with wanting to start a motel, right? And you've been seeing.
No. We wanted this one particular abandoned brothel. There was, yeah.
This pink triangular building. Its address was El Cruce de Jesus, which means the cross of Jesus. And it looked like something out of a Tarantino film. And we'd just done Manumission, the movie, the year before. And we thought, okay, we were 4 years into Manumission. We'd done 4 years. And we're like, if we want to stay like cool and relevant, we really need to have something more intimate for, our friends in the island. And we thought we had that place.
And we decided that if we had like a 24/7 party,
destination,
that would be great for everybody. And so
little did we know.
And so then we cast it like a movie. We used to live in New York in the winters, so we invited our friends who were like badass New York strippers to come and stay with us, and MC Otter, who was a sex performer from New Orleans, and Johnny the Dwarf on the door. And then
Cato, we cast as the cook, even though he couldn't cook, just because he looked like Al Pacino in the kitchen in The Sea of Love. We thought, well, he'll be the cook. I can't cook. No, you'll be great.
And then we had DJ Jerome. We had Jerome came in. He was the DJ from Juicy in New York. Juicy was this amazing lipstick lesbian club we used to hang out in. And then we had the Manumission DJs. So every single week there was the influx of.
And we had you.
Yeah.
You and yeah. So it was just this recipe for absolute trouble. It was,
but very innocent trouble, because what was great about the motel is we did the deal on it. There were no telephones at all to start with. There was no real financial control in it.
Well, our business partners pulled out, so there was nobody in control. It was just which it wouldn't have been. It would never have reached those heights if there had been somebody in control. So it was absolutely perfect that way. But it just meant that it was like the lunatics had literally taken over.
I mean, Andrew Innes from Primal Scream said it was the most
decadent
place he'd ever been in his whole life,
in
the true sense of the word,
Yeah.
because it was really just this very innocent fun where we could do anything we wanted, and there were even magic mushrooms growing in the
basement,
in the fridge. Because Eric, the owner, who's Dutch, he didn't like illegal drugs, but he said fresh magic mushrooms were not illegal, so he imported them. They were in the fridge. We'd break into the fridge and we'd eat these magic mushrooms, or I would anyway. Yeah, and we'd go on. It was like Alice in Wonderland, the whole place, in a way.
Yeah.
How funny. I didn't know about the mushrooms. Yeah, and it's funny because James was saying when we went with MTV, he said, yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't think we interviewed Mike and Claire. But then it makes sense because you wouldn't let press into the motel, right?
No, that's right.
I mean,
They
we
were
were
banned,
there,
yeah.
but not with the camera, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Press were banned. That was part of the strategy, so people would be really relaxed.
Yeah.
And that worked. It worked. It meant that you knew once you were in there, you were safe, even though we had Phil, the photographer, filming everything and taking pictures.
Well, now that's very funny as well, because we've actually got like 17 hours or something of raw motel footage.
Oh my God.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Has that been used?
You and Lisa in the corridor.
No.
Seriously? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just remember being with Lisa, and then I can't remember, basically this joint decision was made that Lisa was not in a fit state to go and do her radio show. So the decision was made that they should just call the BBC and say that she'd been kidnapped. So that's why it started to go all so drastically wrong, because they got a phone call saying she was...
Oh no!
A little warped sense of judgment.
Thinking that'll work.
That's a great idea.
They'll go for that.
Yeah,
Perfect.
they thought at the time that seemed like a good idea. So yeah.
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah, actually, our book is set over that weekend, and there comes a time when nobody can remember what happened. So we've been asking all the people who were staying with us to contribute their memory, and everyone's got this slightly different kind of version of when it's like having this out of body experience, because we've got all these different eyes and all this stuff, which is insane. Yeah.
And so you're trying to gather all these memories for your book.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so the book is out.
No. It's been crowdfunded, and so it's reached its
It reached its target. So it will be published,
and so, which is great.
And now we're in the kind of the writing and editing process.
But we've got this one. Whether it's a chapter, it'll probably be a chapter at the end where we open it up to everybody else's experiences, and it's also really useful for us because it was so intense that
I think we'll weave it through.
Because the stories are hilarious.
Because some of the stories we're getting back from people are very funny, and it's just then we can place those people and those experiences. It'll make the book better.
Yeah, it really.
We could maybe expand at the end of the book with longer versions.
Yeah,
that's quite a project because so much crazy stuff happened. I mean, just give me one funny story of something in the motel. Just any random fun, because I mean, there's so many, but just tell me one funny moment that you remember.
There's so many of them. I mean, breaking in before we actually owned the motel. We were out at Pasha with all of our friends and decided to take you one step back. We've gone to meet with the owner. We'd just been in Cannes with Irvin Welsh and Chris Needs, and in Brighton with Wall of Sound and Skint, Fatboy Slim, John Carter, the whole gang, and Stuart Price. And then we went to...
we've been on an inviting mission. Everybody's coming to the motel.
We've been around everywhere inviting everyone.
We'd met the owner. We told him we were going to have the motel. He told us we couldn't have the motel. We'd said, we're going to have the motel. We went back to the UK, shot the whole campaign at Jay Jagger's house and the Coffin Club. We designed the whole thing, Murder at the Manumission Motel. We didn't even have the keys to the motel.
Hold on. So he said you can't have, this was the owner. He said you can't have the motel, and you started to promote the motel as if it was yours.
Well,
No.
we started to shoot the campaign.
We just ignored.
He said, "You can't have the motel. I'm selling it to a German pimp for 200 million pesetas." I said to him, "Look, everything I wanted in the last 4 years I've got, and now I want your motel. So I'm sure I'm going to get it. Call me when it falls through with a German pimp." And then we went back and shot the campaign, and then got back to the island.
This is why our business partners pulled out, because we just did whatever we wanted. So we just flew off, shot the whole campaign, which was our best campaign yet. It was immediately banned by the Face magazine, of course, but we didn't mind that either.
Yeah. Got back to the island. The phone rings. It's fallen through with a German pimp. The motel's yours if you want it. So we said, great. Then
the phone rings again, and it's our business partners saying, "We want nothing to do with this. You two are out of your mind." So then we had to go and meet the owner and try and explain the fact that we didn't have the money to actually rent this motel.
So then we made an agreement that we'd rent it together, but we'd still have to find the money.
We still had to find the money, which was about 50 grand. So we'd been drinking loads and loads of heavy Spanish red wine, and he was like, "You guys," and we still had to go to promote it in Pasha. And he was like, "You look really sleepy. Why don't you try some of this?" And he opened his briefcase, and he had these little blue pills, Valium. So he was like, "Take some Valium; it'll sort you out." So we were like,
we'd never tried Valium, so we said,
"We tried Valium.
Are you sure? Yeah, so it'll straighten you out."
Yeah, so we take that.
Oh, no.
That was a
disaster. The night rolls on. We're in Pasha, and everyone tries to sort us out, as they do in Ibiza, with other substances and shots. By the end of the night, we had this idea to go and break into the motel, show our friends how cool it was. Mm-hmm. So literally, Mike jumps through a window. With the next 5 minutes, we were all tumbling in, scrambling up the stairs. The last madam had kept hold of it, but it was it'd been dormant for ages.
Yeah, it was.
And there was the water
Sleeping Beauty, kind of it's frozen in time. It was
it was Sleeping Beauty's kind of bordello. It was. Yeah. So we were kind of rambling around in this super cool but very dusty, decadent motel. And Vaughan, our friend we were talking about earlier, he said to Mike, "Talk to Ralph. He's got the money." And our friend Ralph was one of the guys who was with us. And there's a line in the book I say that in Ibiza, one of the things you learn very early on is not to ask people what they do. It's just not a thing. It's just you don't ask people, because a lot of people had come there and they've left the past behind, and it's just you don't ask.
You didn't know what somebody's job was.
If it wasn't obvious, if it was we're Mike Claire from Manumission, you know exactly what we do. You are Simone from MTV, we know exactly what you do. But a lot of our friends, you don't know what the hell they do. So he was one of these guys, basically, and he had a gun. And anyway, he lent us the money to rent and renovate the motel. And he also fueled a lot of the habits that
went on.
that went on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was kind of how it began.
So everything was free? I can't remember. I mean, did people pay to stay there? Did we pay for drinks? I can't remember any of it.
Well, it was supposed to run as a business. I mean, Eric, the owner, kind of ran it as a business, but then we'd send all our Manumission cash.
We were very persuasive.
We said it was a hobby for us, so it didn't matter. So we would pay wages, we'd pay bar bills that weren't covered. And that went on basically all summer long, and right up to almost Christmas, when basically the money ran out, the electricity was cut, the water was cut, the
police cut the sound system up, and
that was it.
We went home with our tails between our legs.
So how long was the motel open for?
It literally that year was the year. It was 6 months. That year, and then we ran it for 2 more summers, but that was
But then it attempted to run as a business.
Yeah.
So then the real crazy, wild and free motel was
gone.
Really that.
And we weren't living there anymore.
It was just 6 months.
Yeah.
Craziness was what? Because in my mind, I was there several times.
Well, you probably came back again.
Yeah.
It was open for more years.
It was open for 2 more summers.
And it was still great. But it was never as wild and crazy as that very first year.
Someone else who was there around that time. Let me play you another clip. Hold on, let me do another share here.
It's like, this is your life.
Yeah.
Mixmag, August 2004. An eyewitness report from Fatboy Slim. Manumission was the first club to book me in Ibiza in 1997. It was carnage. John Carter was with me and they scared us when we arrived, but by the end of a 3-day bender, we were scaring them. John got decked by a tranny and I accidentally leaned on a dwarf thinking he was part of the furniture. I've been back every year since. I met Zoe at the Manumission Motel and went back with her in 1999 for my birthday. The flyer for the night had a drawing of Zoe riding a donkey naked. You could have knocked me down with a feather when she jumped out of a giant cake on stage. It was a complete surprise.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yes, which bit?
The jumping out of the
cake or the
Yes.
John and Norman and John's first visit. I remember it super clearly. It was hilarious. John thought he got knocked out by a drag queen.
But he thought he was punched out by a dwarf.
He thought he was punched out by little Karen, who's a midget, but because she took a liking to him and she was doing the running man in front of him, and he was so out of his mind. And then a friend of mine, Anna Maria, he got me in a headlock and was doing that to my hair. And then a friend of mine, Anna Maria, who's a woman, but she's like a drag queen. She hangs out with all the drag queens. She's the one who punched him.
The whole thing is just
completely right. And I was in such hysterics because I found it all so ridiculous that I couldn't explain anything.
So he still remembers it like that.
He still remembers it like that. And I remember, Zoe jumping out the cake, and because Norman, I said, Norm, come with me. And he says, Claire, your wife's in the club. And he looked me in the eye and he says, I'm trusting you. And I was like,
it was his birthday.
It was his birthday. And I was like, come with me, Norm. And he's like, and then when Zoe jumped out, he was like, no strippers, no strippers. Yeah. So he was really happy. It was really cute. And Zoe said she'd always wanted to be a showgirl, so for her it was like, the dream to jump out of the cake.
So was that so the night when those two met? Because I know I was there then. So was that same weekend then?
That was the
same weekend.
Okay. It's all quite mixed.
We love your story.
Sorry?
You got to write down your memories for us.
Yeah, my memories are a little bit hazy too, but I remember some stuff for sure. So how did we're talking about your family earlier. How did your parents react to Manumission, to the shows you guys were doing, to all the extravagance around it? How is that perceived?
Me or you?
You go first, yeah.
I mean, it was a bit of a my parents are really open-minded and they back me with absolutely everything that we do. They're amazing. They're like a pillar of strength. And, when it landed on my grandmother's front door on my the morning of my 24th birthday,
that same weekend,
the double page spread in the Daily Mail saying that I was like the
Mail on Sunday,
saying I don't know. Anyway, so then it led to my grandma calling me the porn queen, which obviously isn't like. And I love my grandparents. I'm really old fashioned, so it was just like, oh god. And there was a bit of, friction within the family, but my mum always stood up for me. And my parents actually loved Manumission. They used to come every single year. My grandparents came every year, and it would be like, have the grandparents left the building? Okay, the show can go on. Yeah, but they just loved the flamboyance of it. They loved the, they didn't like it when it got really crazy, obviously, in the motel year when
it was too druggy.
When it was too druggy, and now watching the tapes, you can literally, from 97 when we shot the movie to 98, you can literally see us dissolving in front of the camera, so they obviously, that was really hard for the family. But then, as we the motel ended and the shows became much more spectacular on a much grander scale, they loved that. So it was hard. It was, it caused a lot of friction, didn't it?
I'm sure it caused a bit of stress in my family too.
Definitely caused stress in Mike's family. Yeah.
But I always thought, they're all grown up, they can take it.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it was always, I don't know, it wasn't really for public viewing. It was a private world that the press were generally banned from.
I mean,
except when we were insane enough to make a movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
And the whole reasons, it wasn't actually supposed to be us doing it in the first place. That all just happened. It's all just part of the weird chain of, of events. It was never supposed to be us doing it. That just, yeah.
So how did that happen then? So if it wasn't, so what was it meant to be?
Well, first it was meant to be Otter.
Right.
We
couldn't find
We
Otter.
couldn't find Otter. This is before anybody had telephones.
We knew it was an essential element in the party. We have to have that thing. And we need Otter. Oh, we can't find Otter.
I won't go into it in too much detail because it's a little bit graphic. But so a friend of ours, he had an amazing girlfriend in Amsterdam, was 6 foot and Dutch, and he said she's amazing. She's super open-minded. She's beautiful. She'll do anything. Just fly her in. So we flew her over, and we had some girls who were really cool to be the chicks to do the show with her, but she refused to do it she wouldn't do it with any of them, but she said she'd do it with me. And so then I am put in a position where I don't believe in asking people to do things that I won't do myself. However, what she asked me to do was quite strong, but I did it, and
you got a ton of praise from all the drag queens
and the women, and it was the reaction afterwards was really kind of astounding and interesting, and polarizing and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I stepped in once her boyfriend got jealous, and she was made to leave, and that's where I got in.
And that's
Crazy. And you were saying that it was quite hard for your parents to witness when things started to get more druggy and more out of hand with the motel. Because I remember being back at the motel, so this might have been another year where I wasn't filming, I was just there. And I remember I was a bit more quietly just observing it at that point and going, okay, this is not right anymore. Like, this can go really drastically wrong. Like, it felt almost, I was looking around going, is someone going to die here? Like, it started to get.
There definitely was a time where the kind of the magic waned, didn't it? Definitely, I think it's, I mean, it broke, with just the excesses and just, it was like an experiment that we put ourselves in it and didn't really think through the reality of like amazing concoction. We just didn't really think it through, and then living it, night after night, week after week. It just snapped, and then the energy changed. It really did. The whole kind of feeling changed.
So I guess at that point it made sense for it to go.
It didn't stop then.
It didn't stop then.
It carried on for a
It
just changed.
Yeah, but nobody died.
Nobody died.
Phew. Hey, and so you guys never really made much money out of any of it, right? You just kept putting all the money back into it.
Yeah,
we never really cared about money.
We didn't care about money. A lot of people who worked with us cared about money, and the island got very rich through what we were doing. But we would take our money out and feed it back in. It was just like fuel for our art. So whatever we wanted to do, we could afford to do, which was, which is amazing as an artist to be able to produce all your own work. But yeah, we wish we were a little bit harder now on the other people, maybe who didn't need to take quite so much, money out.
But it's interesting to actually say as an artist. So you really also, well, I guess in the way you are, but you also see yourself more as an artist than as a club promoter, club owner, whatever. If that's what
it's like promotion. I mean, what is a club promoter? I mean, promotion was part of what we did, and we did everything hands-on, everything ourselves. Sure. Promotion, like we designed the advertising campaigns.
We designed the concept.
We
wrote the stories. We directed the photo shoots. We
cast the photo shoots. We cast the dancers.
We created this world.
Wow.
And really,
I don't think there's actually a word for
it's like making a movie, except a movie you live in. So they're you've got your costume department, you've got all the different departments. And
now too we work closely with all the heads, and then we live it through till we drop at the end.
So you were like the directors and the artists, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the promoter.
Wow. So a lot. So and then of course it was over, right? It all came to an end. So how was that? I mean, did you still have a lot of the same friends? That people just disappear? I mean, how was that?
At the end of
Yeah,
Manumission, the actual end of Manumission. Oh, it was like it was.
We should probably talk about the end of Privilege, because that was the
Yeah.
weird thing.
right.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a complete shock. Um, it was like a trauma, really. You know, it'd been such a huge part of our lives, and there was an ongoing battle between our business partner and the club owner, and it just came to a head. And he'd chained the doors of the club the year before when there were 4,000 people inside and 4,000 people out, and he said unless we renegotiated, he wasn't going to unlock the doors. And we renegotiated, but he he was super angry with our partner, and he just like locked the doors. Peak season, 2014.
No,
2007.
2007.
Yeah, it was our record every year, and my birthday weekend,
Yeah.
and that was it. We just said okay, enough. We just walked away. We just said okay, I don't know, enough.
Yeah, basically, the stupid club owner locked the door on his most successful night, the most successful club night in the world, probably. He just locked the door on it and fucked himself. So, really, after that, he never really recovered, and Manumission was pretty much over. And, we did move for a couple of years to Amnesia, but it wasn't the same.
No.
Because Manumission was really, we'd grown it in Privilege, which was cool before, but that was our studio, that was our playground. And we were the only thing that ever really worked in there, or really has since. Nobody's ever had as long a run, as successful run as we did. And now it's sitting actually this year completely empty, because there's other legal battles on. So it's overgrown with weeds, and it's just abandoned.
Wow.
It's the world's biggest club. And
but it is weird. I mean, we kind of were very reclusive after that, and we actually needed the time with our children.
Yeah.
Because the schedule for doing Manumission was insane. So we really wanted to take time back. And Mike found this amazing true life story in a book in New York, and we set about learning the art of screenwriting.
Right.
It was another obsession of ours. So we spent 10 years working on a film script. Which was amazing, and
which we got it to Andy Serkis. He read it, loved it, said he wanted to play the title role in the film.
Yeah, and direct it.
And direct it too. And it's still not been made yet, but hopefully down the line that will happen.
Right.
But I think we needed to stop with Manumission.
It was important to see the kids grow.
I was going to say, you already had your kids, so do you think that was in a way also your saving grace? Because
probably,
if you hadn't had your kids, you might have just fallen into this big black hole. But now, of course, there was this whole new focus. There was your family life.
Totally. Absolutely.
We had the kids, we had the animals, we had loads of chickens, we had pigs, we had ducks, we had goats.
It sounds like my life.
Yes.
Same thing. Just buggered off and went to the jungle. But it's fun, isn't it? How I think that in a way, like our generation, we seem to be the first generation that partied a lot, then had kids, maybe pulled back a little bit. And now that the kids are grown, a lot of people, our generation now, are starting to come back out, wanting to go out again, wanting to create again. Of course, lockdown, COVID, all this stuff also made people really reassess. But it's interesting, isn't it? It's a very different thing from generations that came before, don't you think?
Yeah,
probably.
I think there really is a real renaissance at the moment. There's this amazing feeling of like a rebirth, and also totally after lockdown being so strained and unfree. We worked every day through lockdown. We didn't take a day off. We took 2 days off at Easter, I think, at some stage. But we worked every single day, writing our new show.
And the book.
And the book, we were like churning.
Yeah. So what could we do? We wrote the book, which is now going to be edited and polished and structured together, and it's going to be great. I mean, and then we worked on this new Manumission 2.0.
Tell me about it.
Lucky thing, right?
So one of the positive things that came out of lockdown for us is that we'd amassed this amazing team for our movie. really high level team. We never had time to talk to because they were always, on one project or another. They're like in LA, Vegas, and London. But during lockdown, we managed to hold weekly meetings, and together we were talking about the state of nightlife, like what it had got to from where it had been before, how much fun and freedom there had been before, into this whole DJ culture of people just looking.
Kind of corporate DJ as concert model, where instead of it being a band, you put a DJ at the end of the room, raise them up, put a kind of light show around them if you're lucky, and that's it. It's DJ as concert. And we were like, this is shit. Yeah. This is really, really, really crap. And everybody sits and thinks, but because the PR mechanism of the world says this is great, everybody goes queuing up and paying and having this experience. And it's really, really, but it's a good business, but it's really, really uninspiring creatively in our time. So we had this discussion with our partners, our friends, and we decided to...
We thought, why don't we just pool all of our talents and put them into developing this whole new nightlife? It's totally revolutionising nightlife. So two of our partners, Rich and Tone Talawega, they're Madonna's show directors, and they were discovered by Diana Ross.
Their first job was Diana Ross.
And
Michael Jackson's discovered them. They choreographed Michael Jackson. Everybody from J-Lo to Miley Cyrus.
And then one of our other partners, Ben Potvan, he was very high up in Cirque du Soleil as a creative.
Oh, wow.
An acrobatic choreographer. And Mark, our partner from London, he used to be Goldie's producer, actually. He used to produce Goldie and Tribe Called Quest and stuff. And then he went into cinema, so now he does film scores. So together we make this interesting collective, and we really took advantage of having them grounded. And we spent 2 years designing this whole new experience, this Manumission 2.0. So what it's called, you can see this. Yeah. Animus
Omnis. Okay.
Okay, so I'll tell you very briefly the storyline. In my black spot in the Manumission Motel over that weekend, we decided everybody has a black spot, and I decided let's delve into my black spot and see what was going on inside that. So in my black spot, I have an encounter with a superior being, and her name is Aileen. So it's a cross between AI, artificial intelligence, and alien. She's called Aileen. So I have this meeting with this superior being, and she's been watching, she lives on this planet 25 light years away, and she's been studying planet Earth. And so what she sees is 1997. And she's been seeing this violence and all this war and famine. Then she comes to this one little spot in the Mediterranean, and she finds love, harmony. She finds Manumission. So she takes that upon herself as her kind of new religion. And on their planet. But things get warped in space-time. And the words of Manumission get jumbled. The letters, get jumbled. And they become Animus Omnis, which is also Latin, but it means all souls. So... The new production is our collective is called Animus Omnis, and the new show is Aileen, and she's like this goddess, and what she does is her kind of sci-fi take on what we were doing back then. So that's what we're kind of
Ooh, interesting. Oh wow. Okay, so when can people experience this? What's going to be your timeline?
So we're doing 6 parties this summer. 6. We launched the last one.
We launched on May the 8th, and the next one is June the 12th, and it's the second Sunday of every month.
In
Ibiza, and it's at O Beach, which is a beautiful day club. So it's all upside down. It starts in the daytime, and then the carry-on starts at midnight. And it's beautiful. Our daughter Tallulah sings in the show. And so the first scene is this Animus Omnis chant, and then I come up and I have this kind of meeting with Aileen. And then I meet my own daughter 25 years in the future. So it's quite amazing.
Wow.
It's really theatrical. It's really cute,
We're working with amazing modern dancers.
From all over Europe, and an amazing choreographer from London, Jodie Flemings. It's fantastic. And we've got a multi-instrumentalist in Brazil making the show music that Tallulah sings to. So it's a real world kind of...
And fashion-wise, we're doing, for the costume, we've done a mix with Ann Summers, and the head designer of Gianfranco Ferrer, Liborio Capizzi, who's done this couture meets Ann Summers. So it's really, really high level fashion-wise.
But sexy at the same time, so it's got that.
Yeah.
So is it Is it just sexy? I mean, does sex still play a part in it, or not really? Like, there's no sex
No,
shows anymore.
No,
no.
God, no,
Okay.
no.
I think that's illegal. I
I
reckon.
think it was illegal. But what we're doing now, we've got contemporary dancers playing sexed up aliens,
Right.
and it's. I mean, they're just amazing the way they move. It's like it's just a whole other, a whole other exploration. And for me, we did that. We did it so much. There was nothing that there's no more to do in that area. I mean, we've got the old footage, and at some stage we'll make something out of it. I don't know what. We've been talking to Chris Needs a lot about making a series, but like an animated, motel series.
Kind of Netflix type.
That would be
motel
fun.
series.
That would be fun. Yeah, because also, I mean, now you have your own kids, so I don't know how much of the old footage you would actually want to start sharing.
Exactly.
It'd be better to recreate it.
I think recreate it and then have flashes of the original stuff. But I think it's amazing for us to have as a reference. When we first took it out of the boxes, when we moved to Barcelona, our first reaction was just, let's burn it. Literally, we played the tapes and we were like, oh my God, what the hell?
Wow.
And then we were like, okay, let's just put it back and leave it for a minute. And so we haven't burnt it yet.
No, don't burn it. Don't burn it. Leave it. Talking about burning, last little thing I want to share with you. Okay, one last screen share.
August 2004. Disaster almost burned the club to the ground just after 2 a.m. in 1997. Luckily, a flyer saved the day as the club was being evacuated, but almost killed himself in the process. Elliot Cox, now Manumission's operations manager, was on the dance floor when the club caught fire. He says, I'd finished flying for the night and was with my mates in the club. A transvestite who used to do spin through the air on trapeze wires was doing his fire show when some sparks hit the main room's huge curtain. It caught fire, but the audience thought it was just part of the show. The fire spread to flags on the walls, so me and the guy climbed up and started pulling them down. One flag fell my way, so I jumped to avoid it, fell 20 feet and broke my leg. I got out of hospital at 9 a.m., went straight to the Breakfast Club after party at Bar M in my pants. The doctors had to cut off my trousers to a hero's welcome.
Yes.
Remember that?
Remember that very clearly. Yeah.
People did think it was part of the show.
Wow.
The fire.
I saw a video of it recently, actually, and it really looked like it was part of
There actually is
show.
video of that moment as well. Oh my God.
There is. Yeah, and Elliot, he leapt and pulled
From the balcony.
Pulled the banner
burning curtain down.
And broke his leg, so he was like the hero of Manumission
Wow.
for the whole summer.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, you guys have been really lucky. I mean, you've been bobbing and weaving your way around. I mean, really teetering on the edge with a lot of this stuff. It was so risky, everything, even this. I mean, just imagine. I mean, it's just crazy what could have happened. And yet you've come through everything.
I think we've been, we've been helped. We've been guided. Blessed.
And you have all this material out there. Oh my God. I want to see so much of this stuff. I hope it's going to come out at some point. And I'm really looking forward to the book. What's it going to be called?
The Motel.
The Motel. Okay.
Yeah, it's The Motel. High times in 90s Ibiza, and it's written from my perspective as a young woman, like waking up on the morning of that weekend. So, it's...
wow.
You have to take us right back there. It's written in real time. There are two kind of storylines, but it's written in real time, and then we go back to when we met and everything. And I
can't wait. Oh, so excited. Mike Claire, thank you so much for being on the show. It was lovely catching up with you. Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, did you have any laughs? I bet you had a lot with Claire and Mike. Tell me. And the other thing I'd just say, did any regrets? Did they have any regrets going back into their past?
Yes and no. They did tell me that when they first looked back at the videos from that time, their first reaction was, let's burn them. So, but they haven't. The thing is, right, with Manumission, it really was all about freedom. How far can you push freedom when you take away all restraints, everything that society tells you that you shouldn't do? If you completely throw that out the window, what happens? That's what that was. And it doesn't always look pretty. You don't always look back and go, oh, that was great. That was a good idea. But at the same time, I think it was really important that it was done. It was good that it was done. I think as well, overall, they're very proud of what they did with Manumission. And yeah, and I mean, even things like, like the shows they were doing. Some may say that that is degrading or exploitative or whatever, but in their case, what was so unusual was they didn't need to do this. They owned the club, they were in a position of power, and yet they chose to do this, and that's what makes this whole thing different. It's almost as if they crossed the boundary to such an extent and went so far that everyone else who came behind us had the freedom to be who they were, to do what they wanted to do, and everything was okay. And they already gone further than anyone else. And I think that's what made all of that so different.
So do you approve? I mean, do you think anything they did was kind of maybe degrading, immoral, bad, you wouldn't want your kids to see?
Well, like I said, they have come to different conclusions for themselves now. I mean, they wouldn't do that.
But what do you think? What do you think?
But
you personally.
What do I think? Well, so for instance, I had a friend who called me and she said for her, she felt really empowered watching Claire, in her mind, celebrating her sexuality openly like that. I didn't feel that. It didn't, to me, it's like people do whatever they want to do as long as they don't hurt anyone. I don't really care, but it doesn't it doesn't make me feel any different about my own sexuality. It's not influenced by what anyone else does, so it's not something I would ever do. But that's as far as it goes. I think that whatever makes people happy, and live and let live, I would say. I'm very Dutch.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm very Dutch. So, yeah. But it's funny. I think sometimes by throwing off all the morals that society has placed on you, it still doesn't mean that you might not end up eventually having those same morals again, but you've made that decision. It's not like you've taken them on because someone told you to. It's like, and I think that's kind of where they have gone. They've right, and they may have experimented with certain things, also with mind-altering substances and just that kind of excess, and then going, okay, am I cool with this? Well, no, maybe not, but they don't have to therefore judge trying these things in a negative way. Do you know what I mean? But it's interesting. Basically, I think the whole discussion was fascinating. They are fascinating. And I'm super excited about them being back, because I do believe what Mike was saying in the interview, that these days clubbing has become quite dull again because everybody's just looking at a DJ, right? They're looking at a DJ, there's a light show around it, and that's it. And they're like,
and they're holding up their phones.
Can be done.
They're even just holding up their phones. They're not immersing themselves in the moment.
Right, but whether or not you're going to take that away, I don't know. But at least start bringing some creativity and art back into it, and that's what they're doing with their new venture in Ibiza. So very, very excited about that. Yeah,
great stuff. I look forward as ever to the listen, and nice.